hopefully it went through as expected. So we're going to give a second for everybody here. Anybody who's watching, if you're watching this, we're just letting the live start to run the feeds on YouTube and Facebook. So we'll make sure everything comes in.
I see 7 likes, but no watches.
Where is the link?
Okay.
Actually, I want to share it, but I only have
I
don't have the live. I have the join the chat link, which I don't want to put out there.
Yeah, you don't want to put that one out there.
That'd be funny.
Yeah, let me grab you a YouTube link here for you to share too.
Perfect.
Just take a quick second. And then once we start getting some people
everybody,
in, welcome
5 people. We are going to be, as the title says,
I guess this is
our cinematographer.
This is streaming on the Philosopher page?
Yes.
Yes, streaming to Philosopher, YouTube, and Facebook. So we're going to be talking about the campaign, talking about your role, talking about, of course, your passions and how you got into filmmaking, and, of course, guns. Obviously, looking at the background behind you.
And therefore, how our cross passed.
Yes, I'm going to cross. All right, so I'm going to send you the YouTube link here on the same messenger chat we just had it before. So
okay.
All right. And yeah, so it looks like we're starting to actually see some people come in, so that's good. All right. So yeah, it looks like it's working. Perfect.
20 people.
Looks good. Looks
well,
yeah.
Why don't we get started then?
Definitely. So for those of you who are just joining us, and those of you who may be new and haven't, seen what exactly we're doing, because we're on a different day than usual. Usually it's like a late Friday night, and we're like partying with people.
Thursday.
And now it's like some random Thursday. So it's like, okay, who knows? Maybe someone's like, finally a Thursday, I can join. I don't know. But we're going to be talking about the Red Flag Reality Film Project, which is our film project that we're putting together to push back against the gun grabber propaganda. And when I say gun grabber propaganda, we're talking about the videos being produced by March for Our Lives, Sandy Hook Promise, Every Town for Gun Safety, Gifford's Law Center, all these different types of groups, Moms Demand Action. They're all out there producing media, making memes, you can call it that. Making videos, though, that is the one thing they're actually pretty good at is making emotional heartstring videos, because they have very big budgets for that.
Filmmakers are a predominantly left-wing group, unfortunately. I can tell you.
Hollywood is filled. I mean, there's a reason why it's not, acceptable to be conservative if you're like in Hollywood. So,
right. Or libertarian or voluntarist or anarchist or any of the above, because obviously they want to essentially plan our lives.
Progressive.
Right. If you're anything but, a big statist progressive, something like that, like they ostracize. So basically, we're pushing back against, as David correctly noted, a very big monolith of people who have a lot of money and a lot of time to be able to fund propaganda, essentially, to say that people shouldn't be allowed to own guns. And we've already seen some of the ramifications of that. Unfortunately, Virginia of late is one of those where they were able to, through a lot of different campaigning tactics and a lot of money, flushed in there with Bloomberg, get in some people who were obviously clearly looking to take people's guns. I mean, we're not talking about like, maybe ban this whole thing. No, they're like, we're going to come take your guns. We're going to file these bills to basically say whatever you have, you're automatically a felon. And they're already trying to shut down the protests. So,
and they really demonstrate they don't care. But anyway,
right, exactly.
That's
so,
what we're doing.
And David, have you been following that as well on the Virginia situation?
A bit, yeah. The last couple of days since it started getting really crazy, I've been a little more preoccupied with the 18 inches of snow that I'm currently buried under. So not quite as much as I was before that, but I've been keeping pretty up to date.
Yeah, I think that's probably Soros snow, probably, or Bloomberg snow, right? They're like, oh, okay, we got to send some snow his way too.
The chemtrails are good.
Yeah. Oh boy, here we go. But yeah, so basically, we're facing difficulties, whether it's heaping snow or a bunch of very crusty white Moms Demand Action people trying to take people's guns. So wherever it is, there's a lot of stuff going on. And, in time with that, we really see the writing on the wall and just got that motivation, that fire to say, if we don't do something, this is probably going to be it. Because if people don't actually take a stand this year and start meaningfully activating their rights in every single possible manner they can, out there protesting, educating others, stocking up on some guns too, doing whatever it is they can do to support them.
Yeah, First of all, I just want to say I appreciate your collection.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
And your promotion of culture.
If I was in 16:9, you could see almost all of them, but the narrow aspect ratio here.
Right. Yeah.
Still really impressive.
We don't want to reveal the full secrets of his staff.
People in New York. No, that's it. I'm sorry. And there's nothing salty about them.
So exactly.
To everyone here.
We're basically doing our part here, trying to push back against what is an onslaught of people trying to erode speech rights, the right to bear arms, and basically every other fundamental property right you could imagine with their laws. And they're really attacking from every different angle. You know, it used to just be, maybe they'll try a waiting day or a waiting period, or maybe they'll just ban this one part. But now it's like they're just throwing everything out there. Like, we're going to ban magazines. We're going to ban, if you have a pistol grip, we're going to, ban your gun, or we're going to ban your ammo. We're going to ban every, possible conceivable aspect of it until you have nothing left. And even some are
ban private ranges.
Right, in Virginia, right? They're trying to ban private ranges.
That's going on in Virginia.
I heard that yesterday on Liberty.
Yeah, they filed a bill of trial to try to specifically say if it's not in a government, facility building, that you couldn't have a range. I mean, it's just.
Oh, and if it's private, there were some crazy rules. Like, okay, if you want to be private, you have to mark down everyone and keep track of them or something like.
Yeah, it's insane.
Really Orwellian. It's, once that's gone, that's it. They can roll out anything. And also I heard just, it was breaking yesterday that the meeting at the Capitol on Monday, the 20th, is the governor has already declared a state of emergency and prohibiting people from carrying in the Capitol.
That was basically the last thing I'd heard about the Virginia situation.
Yeah. And what tells me about, when a government does a gun ban, they usually want to do something to you. What I think is they probably want to just have the ability to arrest all these people, get them out of the way, and get them to stop coming, to all the meetings and whatever. So.
Right, and there's pictures of it. They had already put up giant fences, and they were really just trying to make it clear that they were going to treat anybody who came to protest like as if they're a political prisoner. Basically, it looked like something out of East-West Germany, trying to cross the border there. It's really mind blowing the levels they're going to make it clear that they don't care what anybody has to say, or anybody trying to stand up for their rights and say this is not right. They just want to shut people down, put them into cages, arrest them, take their guns, target them, and basically bully them into complete submission. And this type of tactics that they're implementing, I think someone in the comments here said accurately, it's really setting the precedent for what may come in the future, both in how people respond and how they work together to push against this, and of course the government itself. Like, what's going to happen if other people, that is, other state legislatures or governors, decide to go the route that the Virginia legislature and governor is currently going. So it's very tense right now to watch this unfold and really see what's taking place, because, who knows, this could lead to something that is a very grave, no matter what way you cut it. It could be a very grave consequence. So.
Yeah. Someone said Virginia will set the precedent for the future of liberty itself. I mean, it's definitely a good example. I think that the tyrants are coalescing. I mean, the reason there was so much outside funding into the campaigns for those who got into power in the Virginia legislature and the governor, like Bloomberg being one of them. And they're coming together, and it's they're trying to test, okay, how extremely tyrannical can we be? Let's test public opinion. Let's push it. Okay, they don't like it. Okay, there's an uproar already. Shoot. Well, let's just say there's a grandfather clause. They have already demonstrated so many times they don't freaking care. And I hope that this shows anyone who is on the fence about gun control or anything like that, that this shows them that this is what the Second Amendment is for. That was the reason that the anti-federalists advocated for that to be in the Bill of Rights, because they were worried about the federal government imposing and having all this power to just impose tyranny regardless of the Constitution, and they realized that one of the greatest checks and balances, you could say, to the government is the people themselves, the just decentralizing, power as much as possible. And that's the point of the Second Amendment and the right to bear arms. It's to be free to defend yourself. And especially when it comes to a government that's tyrannical and oppressive, You should be free to defend yourself from that. And so that's the point. So I hope it pushes anybody who was like, maybe we should have some like kind of universal background check system. No, it's like you should get that, you know, you need to be free and no one should dictate what kind of property you have if you're a peaceful, nonviolent person.
Right. And Jeff here aptly notes that Colorado is already starting to see the effects of red flag laws. And again, just recently, I read Rally for Your Rights, which is a great organization that's out of Colorado focused on these issues, reported that a woman used red flag laws to go after a police officer because he had shot her son. I don't know the exact detail and full history, but apparently he was attacking with some knife. But basically, the cop shot her son, and they don't have a child together or their family relationship, but the woman was able to use red flag laws to petition the court to remove the officer's guns. Now, besides the other issues with cops and other stuff like that, just for the moment, just for talking about the potential for abuse, it's very scary to see that this is already manifesting, that these fake or exaggerated red flag petitions are being filed. And as people were correctly predicting, people were going to see the opportunity to use red flag laws because there's nothing to lose for them. There's no penalty or problem for them to write something that's false or exaggerated. There's no sanctions against them that's going to happen. So they're like, oh, you know what? I'll use this. I'll write this out. I don't like you. Well, I'll just have the cops come in, kick your door, and take your guns. I mean, it's very scary.
That story made me think about something, and that's that we always hear, especially from people that are more on the kind of traditional conservative or Republican side of things than the libertarian and anarchist things like we would be. You hear so many times, oh, the cops won't take your guns. They'd never enforce that, which is patently ridiculous because they're already enforcing unconstitutional gun laws.
Right.
Hey, I will say, I will add an asterisk. Some of them won't. They're individuals after all.
And I know a few cops personally that I don't think would, but by
and large.
Will they be replaced? That's the real question. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Will they be replaced? Because that's exactly
and
the
as
issue.
we've seen in Virginia,
Right.
The governor's like, well, we're going to fire you then.
Right.
We'll just have you fired.
Yeah. And that story you were just telling makes me think that cops were willing to cross the thin blue line to enforce red flag laws. So if they're willing to do that, what are they going to do to us us normal folk?
Right.
Yeah, it's very concerning, and it doesn't matter what you think about the nature of police relations and stuff like this. At the end of the day, what's happening is they're going to follow the order, and they're going to say, well, it's up to the courts. We'll see what happens, but they're going to follow it because they know at the end of the day, if they don't, that's their bread and butter. That's where their paycheck's coming from. And so many police officers and sheriffs have already said, well, too bad. I'm going to have to just, enforce this. Fortunately, some have, resisted, but, the reality is that there's no cops who are actually arresting the other officers who are enforcing it. So what good does that do if one cop's like, I want to enforce it? It's like, okay, like Bill, then you go do it. I mean, so.
The other problems, that's true.
Well, and also, I've found that a lot of cops will say, oh, we're pro Second Amendment. We won't enforce these things, yada, yada, yada. And then they utterly fail to actually hold up to that. I live in Southern Oregon, right next to the California border. I'm like 20 minutes from California. Right across the border from where I am is Siskiyou County, which is the part of Northern California that I grew up in. And I mean, Siskiyou County, it's as rural a place as you're going to find in California. It is nothing like the Bay Area. It's nothing like Southern California. We've been trying to secede and form our own state since at least the 1940s. But even still, the cops there are enforcing these laws, and the sheriff down there, John Lope, he's always talking about how I won't enforce these gun laws, blah blah blah. And then just a couple months ago, there's a story: woman gets pulled over. The only thing she got in trouble for was having an unregistered gun or a gun that broke California's laws in some way. It sounds like she had some kind of pistol caliber carbine. I forget if it was like an AR pistol or if it was what it was. I want to say it was like a Scorpion. Anyway,
Nice.
it was a pistol like a pistol
right.
with a brace,
Right. Yeah.
Right.
And of course, they took it from her. They arrested her, and Sheriff John Lope has a quote in the article for the little local newspaper saying, "Oh, we're glad we got a dangerous gun off the streets."
Oh,
and mind you, this woman had no other charges. It's not like, okay, well, she threatened her husband and
She was peaceful.
shot at her boyfriend or something. Yeah, no, she just got pulled over in a routine traffic stop,
Victimized.
and they discovered it, took it from her, and this supposedly pro-gun sheriff who's always saying he'll protect
So
the victim,
two-faced.
always saying, I need to make a video about it sometime, really exposing him. But
Yeah.
And on that note, and making a video exposing, you should definitely tell the audience, in addition to what we're going to talk about here more with the film, what you yourself are also working on and cooking up this year with your YouTube channel.
Yeah, so I've been, I'm a filmmaker, if you guys didn't know who are watching. I have been making short films and stuff for probably 7 or 8 years now. I've been making my living as a full-time freelance filmmaker for the last 4 or 5, probably. And so doing commercials, corporate videos, stuff like that, winning filmmaking contests every now and then. And just in the last few weeks, I have started doing something I've wanted to do for a long time, and that is putting out a more regular content, not short film narrative content like I have done in the past, but more talk show type content. So this room that I'm in right here, this is not just my gun room. This is a gun room / recording booth. So I have a pretty cool setup in here. I'm doing ideally, I'm shooting for 2 or 3 times a week right now in the winter with busyness and the holidays. It's been more like once a week, but I'm doing a regular show that I put out. And we'll get to where we're putting out more, but I talk about all sorts of stuff. I talk about gun rights. I talk about movies, libertarianism in general. So just trying to make something that gets a lot of my ideas out there. And if you want to check that out, you can look up Buck the System on YouTube, and it should be one of the first things that comes up.
And we'll definitely share that too with everybody there. I think, basically what Dave is trying to do here is be the PewDiePie of guns, because that's basically what he is. He's gonna be making funny content. He's gonna be talking about pop culture.
Yes.
He's gonna be just like he did, right, with your other videos that were very viral and popular. Like, you're gonna be talking about real relevant things, but in a comedic way and an engaging way that makes people be like, okay, that's hilarious.
Videos. You should tell us about some of your most proud videos you made for the Liberty Movement.
Yeah, so what I would call what I'm trying to do with my channel, which is more than just guns, but definitely guns is a big part of it. I call it gun rights apologetics. There's a lot of GunTube YouTube channels where people shoot guns, and occasionally they'll put something out like, guys, go vote against Senate bill, or go oppose this Senate bill that's gonna try to institute universal background checks or whatever, and they'll say stuff like that. You very rarely get people really talking about gun rights and making arguments for gun rights. That's what I'm calling what I do, like gun rights apologetics. I've done a couple debates. I can hopefully doing more of those in the future, and putting out content like that. But as far as the gun content of mine that you might have seen, if you're watching this right now and you're familiar with the term ghost gun, you have me to thank for that. A couple years ago, early 2014, I think it was, California Senator Kevin De Leon made his infamous 30 magazine clip ghost gun.
Oh, right.
And I was the guy that took that and made a little video mocking it and kind of translating it so that people who don't necessarily understand firearms terminology can see like a visual representation of how stupid what he's saying actually was. And it was very successful. It shared all around. It got 2 million views in the course of a week or two. Now I think it's around 5 or 6 million views. I haven't checked it in a while, but
over 5 million.
Oh,
yeah. Sometimes I'm like, man, I should be getting royalties for all these companies that are making money on things that are branded ghost gun, because
well, should someone
rich off my joke.
That's funny.
That's funny. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely awesome what you've done in terms of like just mocking him, because I think that's a big and a very important part to what we're trying to do here, which is that we want to be irreverent toward these gun grabbing groups and toward, the heads of these, gun grabbing organizations and
present the
politicians.
arguments, like the reasons,
right? We do also want to take what they're doing and basically flip the script on them. We want to make fun of them or use, dramatization in the same way they do, but then flip it on them and make the onus on them and the burden on them to be like, oh, what now? See, you're the evil person, you're the murderous person. But our version is going to actually be very accurate, because unlike theirs, where they blame, innocent people who've never hurt anybody for the actions of a few violent criminals, they are actually the ones who are enacting violence against people at large by saying, oh, yeah, we should use, state violence to come after you just because you have a gun, or, you don't deserve to live because you like guns. Like, it's just crazy. So we're really going to take it and flip it on them. So.
Yeah. And it's super needed. I mean, even just this week, I put out a totally unrelated, it wasn't even a gun related video, except that there's guns in the background. It was a response to a review of one of my movies by a podcast. And
someone commented on your movie on their podcast.
Yeah, a film I made for my church a few years ago. A place did a review of it, so I made a response. They had some things that were wrong. I gave some trivia. It was a fun episode, and almost none of their viewers, because they shared it, they're like, "Oh, hey guys, this guy made this thing. Check it out. It's a response to our review of his film." And I gave a lot of backstory about the making of this, very low budget film. Very few people actually commented on that. Most of them were just saw the guns, and 2 or 3 commenters were saying, out of only a few dozen, it's not like there was tons of comments, were saying things about like, oh, should we call the FBI? Like, wow, this looks like a violent psychopath.
That's insane. That's really
it's just amazing. I'm like, if you watch, literally my last episode was an anti-war episode, but sure, I'm a violent psychopath.
Right.
Well, to me, that if these people are genuine, I would just assume that by default. But to me, that would just demonstrate the level of propaganda.
Oh, absolutely.
These people, the gun grabbers, the ones that want to just control humanity, ultimately, that's the goal. They just want to control other humans and resources for themselves and monopolize on it. That's plain and simple. That's it. That's just the nature of government and why.
Absolutely. And a lot of the general populace goes along with it, seemingly just because they're ignorant and they don't know any better. They're emotional and they're just terrified of
the public school system. Exactly what you're saying. Yeah.
I mean, it's the level to which these people don't understand firearms and don't understand really the lives of anybody outside of their insular, generally urban bubbles.
Yeah, true.
In my video, I showed at one point a funny behind the scenes clip of a mishap that happened on set where some props rolled down a hill and a guy had to go get them. It's pretty funny. In it, I'm laughing at the guy that's running down the hill to go grab it, and I walk out in front of the camera from behind it, and you can see that I'm carrying a .357, a small revolver, a Ruger SP-101. We were out in the mountains, and there was actually a commenter that was like, "This is disgusting. This guy isn't just collecting guns; he's carrying one in public."
But that's not a violent at all. They're trying to equate it as such. It's so ridiculous.
Well, and don't get me wrong, I do carry a gun in public, but this guy's like carrying it in public. I'm like, look at the clip. We're just blatantly out in the mountains. I mean,
right.
Well, honestly, even if you were in public around a ton of people, if it's pointed down, it's just like hanging limply off you. What's the problem? You're not like, walking around like pointing at everybody.
They're holophobes. What it is? They're literally afraid of people, who are having weapons around them, or they're just literally scared of it, and it's a very irrational fear that came likely from people in their life who basically scared them into that position, saying, "Oh, it's just going to like magically go off and die."
Especially now. And schools, kids are just.
And it's so funny too, because a large proportion of the comments are, of course, wow, he must really be compensating for something.
Oh, that's another stereotype. It's so weird.
Such a stereotype. And they're the ones that are blatantly acting fearful. The other thing that's really been cracking me up lately is that the left has really been starting to call gun owners incels. I don't think they know what it means. I mean, I have a wife and 3 children, And I see these people that are hiding behind like Rick and Morty avatars, and they're calling it incel, and I'm like,
Oh yeah, that's true.
one of us is much stereotypically closer to being the incel stereotype, but sure.
Right? The hypocrisy.
Because I have guts, I must be lonely and nobody likes me. So.
This is a great example of what your podcast will be like. Should we put a bunch of links to all the things you've cited so far?
Yeah, we could definitely show those down.
At least does your YouTube have it all, like the ghost gun video that
everything's
you made?
Oh yeah,
on my YouTube. I put everything online. My YouTube has I don't know, 70 or 80 videos right now. That's going to be going up a lot as I start putting out more regular content. But it has everything from short films to spec commercials to corporate videos to a lot of gun related political commentary stuff. So
great. That's excellent.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely awesome. And that's, of course, one of the reasons why we especially wanted to work with you on this film. And we specifically had you in mind is because we know of your history producing films. We know how principled you are and how passionate you are. And I think people would just be interested to hear just, little things about like, how did you get into filmmaking in the first place,
Oh man, I've always been into filmmaking. I mean, the first times I started trying to do any filmmaking was, as a little kid in the early to mid 90s. We had, giant, awful camcorder that I would occasionally be able to convince my mom to let me play with. And
wow,
I'm 4 or 5 years old. I'm trying to set up movies with stuffed animals and trying to build castles out of pillows. And I was so pissed every time. I'd be like, why does this look so garbage? Like, how do they do it in the movies? How do they make it look cool? How do they make it look so cinematic? And so that kind of started my love affair with visual storytelling. It wasn't until I was middle school age that I was able to start dabbling in any serious filmmaking. I'm jealous of today's kids sometimes.
Yeah, immediately 4K.
Yeah. Oh,
stabilizers. Yeah.
Any kid
your phone. Just your phone.
Yeah.
Now your phone.
So when I was in middle school, I started dabbling in stop motion. I made a few stop motion short films with Legos and stuff. In high school, I started dabbling in live action. I didn't even have a camera. I mean, this was still the days of really crappy mini DV camcorders that just looked awful. No amount of lighting or cinematography know-how was going to make them look cinematic. Still kind of tell a story. So I made a few short films in high school with cameras I was able to borrow from my friends. And then I kind of put it aside for a little while, and I joined the Army straight out of high school.
Wow.
And long story short, joining the Army turned me from a sort of libertarian-leaning Republican to a full-blown anarcho-capitalist libertarian.
Wow.
And eventually,
that happens sometimes.
Cheers to that.
I've known quite a lot of ANCAPs that were in the military.
Yes,
now including you.
The military has a way of producing ANCAPs.
That's true.
Is it the drill sergeant yelling at you, screaming at you, and just?
It really wasn't. See, that stuff.
I don't know.
That stuff never bothered me. I really enjoyed being in the Army at first. I loved the training. I thought it was too easy. I wanted more of a challenge. I was a Ranger because I kind of wanted to be in a more elite unit, and I was really into it until I deployed. And already before I deployed, I'd started kind of seeing some warning signs, just things like a general kind of hatred for Muslims that I'd see from people, or people who clearly didn't care about freedom and were either just there, for a job to make money, or because they wanted to go kill people or whatever. And I'm like, I was the guy going for God and country, and I'm like, well, I thought we were going to Iraq to liberate people. Once I got to Iraq, I fairly quickly realized that wasn't the case. I won't get into the whole story, but actually one of the things that kind of woke me up was that we were enforcing gun laws in Iraq.
Whoa. Wow.
I remember as we were going around raiding houses, my unit acted sort of as a SWAT team, whereas the regular Army would act sort of as police, just kind of patrolling. We would just go raid places and tear them apart.
Homes?
Stuff. Yeah, like homes and whatnot. And I remember we were always told, okay, we're basically, people are allowed to have one gun and 50 rounds of ammo, and anything more than that, we can confiscate. Of course, from what I saw people doing, I don't think that law was even being respected. I think people just take everything. Because I remember one time, we're tearing apart this room. I ripped up like some bedding off the floor, and out of a blanket, an empty AK magazine fell. And I picked it up and I carried it over to my team leader and was like, "Here, we found this." And I was like, "Man, what are you doing? What is this? Like, are we really just over here, are we the bad guys?" It's like, I have a lot more guns than I've seen.
Wow. So you started to change your.
I started to kind of empathize with.
Wow.
I was starting to realize, hey, if I was an Iraqi, I'd definitely be shooting back. I have the firepower. And then when I got home, at the beginning of our deployment, a corporal from my company had been killed. He was elsewhere. Like, my platoon was in one part of Iraq. His platoon was in another. So I wasn't there to witness it. So we just kind of all heard the story secondhand. Well, a couple months after we got back from our deployment, we were told that the kid that had just killed that corporal had gotten out of jail. And I was like, and everyone's like gasping and so angry, like, well, how could they let him out after he killed one of us? And I was like, wait a second, a kid? And then our company commander is like, yeah, this kid that killed him with an SKS, 13-year-old, they let him go. That's the Iraqi justice system for you. But don't worry, when we go to Afghanistan next deployment, we'll put all the effing Muslims to sleep. Only obviously he didn't censor it. And everyone cheering, and I'm sitting there like, wait a second, this guy in our company was killed
funded by our tax dollars over here.
Yeah, well, and what really got me was that this guy had been killed by a 13-year-old with an SKS.
13, yeah.
I had a different SKS than this one at the time. This is a much nicer one, but I had an SKS, and I had a brother that was 13, 14 at the time, and I was just like, man, I taught him how to shoot and taking him out shooting. My house was getting raided. I would want him to shoot back at people.
Yeah.
And that started the process of me deciding that I couldn't be involved with the military anymore. Eventually I got out because I couldn't feel good about working for the government anymore, and became an anarcho-capitalist. And then after I got out, back to what I was initially talking about being a filmmaker, I started getting back into being a filmmaker. I worked different jobs at first for the first couple of years. I worked for a roofing company, I'd buck hay, chop firewood, whatever kind of little jobs I could find to keep me going while I always worked at becoming a filmmaker. I bought a little bit of equipment, started making short films. My first short film that I made after I got out of the military was called One Man's Terrorist, and it was sort of essentially a fictionalized retelling of the story that I just told you. It was about insurgents in America fighting invading forces. And
is that the next one? And it's like, put yourself in the shoes of somebody. Yes. What if China?
It's similar, to that like Ron Paul speech, where he talks about, what if China invaded America. In my film, it's the UN. I didn't have the budget to get Chinese soldiers, so I had to deal with a bunch of white guys with blue helmets. So, but that was kind of the beginning of where I really started becoming a more serious filmmaker. After that, for the last that released 7 years ago, late January or early February, I think was when the first episode came out. So almost exactly 7 years ago, 8 years ago. It was early 2012 that I put that out. So ever since then, I've just been becoming a more and more serious filmmaker. While I was in the military, technology made leaps and bounds. DSLRs became the norm, and suddenly, even for a guy like me just doing films out of his garage, you could make something that looked very cinematic and very professional. So I've just been, for the last 8 years. I love
technology.
Yeah, me too. For the last 8 years, I've just been figuring out how to do this and becoming more and more serious at it.
Centralizing the means of production. Why you became an ANCAP, not an ANCOM.
Amen.
Gotta say that.
And yeah, I really personally, one of my favorites is the submission you did for the Doritos commercial. I thought that was really fantastic.
Wow.
Yeah. That was amazing. I thought you did so well with that film.
Is there a website people can go to as well? I think
if you go to buckthesystem.tv, you can find a lot of my work. That's sort of a little bit geared towards my professional work. So if you go there, it's geared more towards showing it to clients, but you can still find all my work on there.
That's what I looked at, and made me realize, okay, yeah, we need this guy. So if you guys are curious and want to see, get a little taste of what David can do, and whatever video we produce together will look
and
like,
actually,
just go to his
even the
website.
best place to take a look for that is actually on the campaign itself, because we do actually have a link to his demo reel and to his YouTube, where he has his very famous gun grabber video. So definitely want to take a look there. I'll post that link
And check
there in
out
the
the
comments.
campaign and consider supporting if you haven't already, because
Yeah.
we want to really get fully funded. Oh, go ahead, David.
I was just reiterating what you're saying. Please support it. I'm really excited for it. I know when you guys had contacted me first about it, the first thing I thought of, I was like, wait, you guys want to do like the answer to that Sandy Hook video where the kids are all running?
Yeah.
Yes,
Right.
exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That, I mean, as much as I disagree with it, that's a brilliant piece of propaganda.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the thing, is it's really just a matter
I
of
hate it.
making people realize that you're not going to be able to just get away with making these gross generalizations of gun owners and painting them out to be murderers, or that
Without a
if you
response.
enjoy gun magazines or learning about guns or just shooting and stuff like that you're somehow the next school shooter. I'm personally just sick and tired of it. And, I work with young people still, and I hear stories about them doing these drills, the code red drills, but they're, doing shooter drills now. And, they're all be like, oh my gosh, I'm so scared. And I'm like, just to let you know, like, you're literally more likely to, die in a car accident or get hit by lightning. Like, I mean, you should not be scared every day that, you're going to get shot, but they have this going on. Just like any other, fear tactic or propaganda to get young people to give up any shred
for
of
their
rights they
18
have.
years. In their formative years, they instill in them this idea that the world is so scary, and the only people that can protect you is the state. So
Right,
it's really funny. I forget the exact statistics, but this will be in a future video I do. A couple months ago, I calculated just how much more dangerous school buses are than just going to school is. Like, as far as going to school, I calculated how likely you were to die in a school bus accident, and I figured this out, basically figuring out how dangerous each minute is. Like, I figured out the average time that a kid rides a school bus, the average kids at school, how many kids die per year, and actually over the last decade, how many kids have died in school buses and how many kids have died in school buses. I want to say it was at least 18 times more dangerous just riding to and from school.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. So
yeah, I need to get on that and finish putting that all.
Right.
And that's a good point, and that ties into the other things that we would like to do. I mean, ideally, of course, we want to do the Red Flag Reality, centerpiece, masterpiece film. We did build in there two options of, if we, fund less, we have other films to shoot. And if we fund more, then we could shoot multiple films. So that's the great part about this, is that no matter what, we're going to be working on something that's, really amazing and can push back meaningfully against all the gun grabber propaganda, especially by Sandy Hook Promise. And, as people are, drumming up support for this, they can be excited to know that there's, a lot of opportunity and different means that we're going to be approaching this. So, because we're going to be, producing content ourselves too. And so are you, of course, as well, through your channel. So we're really, taking it to them and taking the battle to them this year, because we just realize that this is too serious to not do something about.
Well, and if I can just say real quick to everybody listening why this is so important, the pro-gun side has had a huge amount of support over the years. I mean, the NRA, for all its flaws, is a huge organization that has protected a lot of gun rights. And yet somehow, despite having one of the biggest lobbying groups out there, at least as far as like civil rights lobbying group, the NRA is massive. There's never really been anything like this. And we've seen, especially in recent years, it's really started to feel like the left is winning a culture war in regard to guns. And it's, it's getting to the point where a lot of these kids coming out of public high schools, unless their parents are like very pro-gun, they're just by default anti-gun. And I think
because they
that
control
is
the schools
of the propaganda. You see things like Sandy Hook, you see pop culture, you see TV and movies are all made by generally very left-wing people who are very anti-gun. And that's been completely like that. just kind of incidentally having anti-gun messages in those mediums has almost been doing more than the entire pro-gun lobby has been doing, at least as far as the public conscience goes. And so I think it's super cool, the idea of making a real narrative style short film that does for the pro-gun side of the argument what the left has been doing for decades now.
Exactly, and that's
Appealing
something
to
that
emotions,
right.
not making arguments and here's a list of facts.
Exactly.
It's mostly, I mean, they do that through politicians or whatever, but the main reason, main way culture spreads is entertainment mediums and comedy. You know, having, late night television hosts that have won people over for being funny. Now their walls are lowered, so they say something about gun control, like Jimmy Kimmel crying. They're gonna just be like, "Wow, oh no, this guy that is hilarious. Like he must be right, So it's just,
And
definitely.
To speak to like the specifics too, because I have a bit of experience, seeing this behind the scenes, being a former teacher and working with young people and dealing a lot with media. I've seen exactly how they're approaching this propaganda campaign. One part of it is within the public schools, and that's because many of the teachers there themselves are very anti-gun, and the schools, becoming gun-free zones, further entrenched those ideas that young people wouldn't have the opportunity to be a part of shooting clubs as much, or to be able to bring guns on campus. So they were going for target practice or hunting after, like used to be the norm that 80s even up to then and before, there was lots of shooting activities or sports activities or hunting or skeet and trap taking place near school grounds or on school grounds or just after school and things like that. So basically getting rid of the gun culture at school through gun-free zones and attracting more teachers who don't like guns was a big part of that change. And in addition, now you have groups like Sandy Hook Promise where they have this Say Something campaign, and they're actually coming to schools and telling students about guns and saying, oh, look for all these different signs of like what the next mass shooter is. And they're basically demonizing anyone who likes guns because there's no discrimination really in how they present it, because I've taken a look at it and talked to students who've been through it. And there's no discrimination. They're literally just saying technically benign things are themselves red flags of students that are troubled.
Video games.
Right. And, so you have that going on. And then on the entertainment side, I've personally noticed this as well, that the culture with movies and guns has shifted dramatically in recent years, and music as well. In movies, you really don't get much of anybody who's a purely private person using guns effectively for defense. Anyone who uses a gun in a movie has to be, at a bare minimum, ex-military, ex-cop, something like that, at a bare minimum. Or if they're working, kind of tangentially, they must be like the CIA's lackey or an FBI person who's like doing the dirty work that they can't do, but they like let them go, kind of thing. It's completely.
When they do show self-defense, they show dinky little revolvers. That's all you
right.
get.
Yeah.
Or just 2-shell shotgun.
Yeah, you get a little revolver if you're a private person. And then in the music, what's happening specifically, and I personally have been tracking this. Yeah. Back in the day, many rappers had lots of guns in their videos. Yeah. Like gun culture was like gangbanger stuff was a big thing. Now there's things with that's not great in itself either. But the idea there is it was still a norm. Like it was like, oh, okay, I'm a rapper, I'm going to shoot guns, stuff like that. Now all the rap artists are like zoned out, drugged out, lean drinking rappers who just mumble, and they're soft as anything. They don't shoot. They just literally like, oh yeah, blah, 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 I'm going to drink this and be dumb. Like it's literally what it is. And so it's gone from these very witty people like the 90s rappers who like actually had a really impactful messages, like Tupac, Biggie and stuff like that, who actually had some really good messages in terms of
about the war on drugs.
Right, like NWA songs, stuff like that, like really pushing back against oppression and being for, guns and flexing that, to now just like, oh, just be focused on, sex and drugs and, dope your brain up to the point that you're just stupid. You know what I mean? Like, and again, I'm not saying like, okay, if you want to like drink or smoke like that, I don't care. It's just for young people, the culture they're pushing is just zonk your brain and disarm yourself and be weak. It's literally the culture being pushed in a lot of these, you know, Zanny rappers and like mumble rapper stuff that's changed in the past few years, about 4 or 5 years.
It's just about dissociating. It's don't think about the great bigger picture, like government takes care of everything. Just dissociate, feel good, take these drugs, have sex with whoever, and just, you know, fuck around. Like life doesn't matter, you know, like that's what kind of messages they're instilling. And it's crazy because these are kids in middle school, you know, with access to the internet, watching these videos. Like who's making up the millions of views for Ariana Grande or Taylor Swift or whatever artist, you know, Lil Pump or whatever. It's kids who usually are bored from school. They hate having to do homework, and they're getting raised through their peers in the school system, indoctrinated to love the state, and raised through the internet, whatever areas they find. And that can be good or bad. It just depends on the individual. And you'll see that there are even some kids who are learning about freedom of speech or the right to bear arms or philosophy, self-knowledge, things like that. And they go on that kind of route on the internet, you know? And some people go on to like, okay, I'm going to join BuzzFeed and be all like into climate change alarmism and everything like that, you know? So it's quite an interesting playing ground we have. And I hope, you know, these videos reaches a lot of people. And the goal is, the reason, you know, we want to make this more, it's more open. It's more like general audience versus me doing a presentation, for example, and saying, here's why, you know, gun control is wrong. Having something that's like entertaining, that's going to appeal to the lowest common denominator, so to speak, you know, like,
oh yeah. You're not going to get your average anti-gun person, or even your average just kind of, you know, FUD to watch a guy sit in a gun bunker like me.
or even me in front of a screen or a Muslim backdrop, just saying, and the title says, here's why gun control is violence. Like, usually someone's going to be on the defensive and like, oh, you're trying to prove me wrong, skip. But if it's something else, if it's like dramatic, you know, just for the sheer entertainment value, people will watch. You know, it's very interesting. Just people will, it's more likely for someone, you know, in their busy day-to-day, whatever they have to do, you know, whatever, more likely for them to click on something that looks like visually appealing and cinematic and like, whoa, like I've never seen, artsy, you know, something I've never seen before. That's how, you know, when we're talking about the quote, the left, like what they've done successfully is make their ideas beautiful, you know, like to the untrained eye.
They've made their incredibly lame ideas cool. I mean, that it's going back to that.
Celebrities help.
Going back to that video I made that ended up getting watched by a overwhelmingly liberal atheist audience. Like the second they saw my guns, I mean, they were all just triggered out of their minds and insulting me and acting like I'm so lame.
I love that you keep it up.
Well, I'm compensating for something. And I was told 3 or 4 different times, you know, I'm like oh, you look like a mass shooter. I mean, like
I just like saying that argument. But
yeah.
It's like, okay.
It's like, what are you compensating for?
It's like,
yeah. Like, oh, you're nothing, I guess.
My lack of
the left, the second they see that you own any guns, at least any guns beyond like a pump action shotgun, bolt action rifle, maybe a revolver, anything beyond that, the second they see it, they think that you are a loser. And the second you're using those other guns for hunting, they also think you're a loser.
Oh, for me, I've gotten, oh, she's just a puppet for the NRA. I'm like, look, I wish I was getting funded by the NRA. I'm not. It's sad to us both to break it to you.
But instead, we're getting funded much better by the FPC because they're way more principled. On that note,
Amen.
yes, we do want to say, you know, thank you to the Firearms Policy Coalition for your support. Make sure to check them out and donate to their legal efforts because they are the ones, in my opinion, who are doing some of the greatest work on the legal front and the legal battles. They're actually out there doing the lawsuits, filing support briefs. So, yeah, absolutely awesome organization. Definitely love them.
Likewise,
And
I agree.
compromising organization too.
Yeah, they're like completely principled. I haven't seen it.
Right. No compromise. Maybe next
fine.
legislative
Maybe bump
season.
stocks, that's fine.
Yeah, no, bump stocks are fine to
Bump
ban because Trump did that one.
Right.
wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're good. All
Generate
gun
another
control
flop on them.
is infringements, so they're on that side.
Yeah. Someone said actually a funny comment about like people who like said the shaming things before, like, why don't you just join the police or military? And I always laugh at that because I'm like, oh, okay. So basically you think that I'm a mass shooter, but if I join the police and military, then I can go ahead and mass shoot people. And it's okay now, mass shooting, right? Oh, if I join the military and mass shoot people, oh, that's great. It's just so insane. So
I get that a lot too. I'll see that. I don't see that argument so much from like the younger, like millennial and younger generation of anti-gun people. But whenever I go to, anti-gun rallies, the demographic there seems to mostly be like boomer public school teachers, and they'll constantly be like, well, if you want to have an assault rifle, why don't you join the military? And my response is always like, ma'am, that's disgusting. You would want me to own a rifle in my house, but you're okay with me going overseas and killing little brown kids with them?
Right.
So indignant. It's funny too because they're so liberal.
So. Can you do man on the streets?
Yeah. He would be hilarious.
You'd be really good.
He would be good.
I would watch it. Please.
I would like to do some stuff like that for my YouTube channel.
Maybe we
probably
should
have to wait till the weather gets better.
Maybe we should for fun. Maybe let's think about how we can make that work. Because obviously we're going to be visiting together because a part of obviously the campaign, no matter what, is we're doing the Vegas thing. So that's definitely happening. So we're going to be hanging out in Vegas, having a good time, shoot some guns. And of course, everybody who's listening, watching, you can be in Vegas with us too, because we're going to be, doing that for the Red Flag Reality Film Campaign and celebration and like a fun way to just have a good time with people who are supporting. So, maybe we go walk the strip and do a little video. Like,
that'd be fun.
I'd be happy to record you from behind the scenes and be like, all right, let's get David to like do a little man the street.
Maybe we could all switch. Like, that'd be fun.
I think Vegas is like the perfect strip to do that too, because it's so interesting. There's so many different kinds of people that ask there.
You should get a very diverse group of people. I know one problem with doing man on a street where I live is, I'm not probably going to find a ton of people that disagree in small town, high desert Oregon.
You're like, hey, we're being the nice person in this rural part of Oregon. What do you think? Should there be any gun laws? No. You're like, okay, thank you. All right, next person. Not as juicy.
Leave me alone.
I could go to Ashland though. If anyone is familiar with Southern Oregon, Ashland is it's like an outpost of the Bay Area that somehow is in rural Southern Oregon. I could get some fun responses there.
Oh my God.
Yeah, there you go.
I think we should do it. We should make that happen.
I'm down.
Especially after we have a couple drinks too. And for every interview, David takes half a shot, maybe something like that.
I don't drink, but that'll make it less fun.
I didn't say it had to be alcoholic. So we just get you either some espresso or maybe
you can do it yourself.
Get me really hopped up on caffeine.
We'll get you jacked up on Mountain Dew. Like he's gonna drink another Mountain Dew and interview the next person. But yeah, I think that it's going to be a lot of fun. Again, anyone who's just joining us, I see a lot of new people just came in. Again, we're talking here with David West. He's our cinematographer, filmographer for the Red Flag Rally campaign. We're raising funds for the film to push back against the gun-grabbing propaganda, especially of groups like Sandy Hook Promise, March for Our Lives, Moms Demand Action. And so we're just talking it up here and letting people know that we're ready and excited to produce content that's meaningfully on the same level, that they're producing, the commercial quality, the dramatization. Take what they're doing, flip the script on them, shove it down their throats, put them on the defensive and make them realize that they're not going to get away with this anymore. They're not going to be able to just demonize all gun owners without people, not coming back and telling them that not only you're wrong, but we're going to show people just how wrong you are and show everybody just how ridiculous your ideas are, whether that's, showing people that, hey, you're more likely to get hit by a car than to die in a mass school shooting, or you're more likely to get struck by lightning, or that, that gun, ban that you're proposing has literally nothing to do with stopping people from, basically carrying out their murderous plans. Whatever it is, we're going to be covering those things in different avenues and different videos on your channel on Buck the System, over here on The Philosopher, and of course on Red Flag Reality. So, it's going to be a lot of fun. And I hope that anybody who's just come in here just takes a moment, take a look at the Red Flag Reality link here that's in the comments. Again, you can support over on the side here. It's going to just be an Indiegogo link. So that, it's a very safe, secure website. I've personally used it for over 9 campaigns myself and other things. So great website to use, lots of cool perks to go over. And of course, you'll be able to hang out with yours truly and the philosopher when she comes back from whatever it is she just went to. I think it was the bathroom. And David here too at our Vegas event, shooting some guns, having some fun, eating some food. Obviously, pho will be on the table, guaranteed. So I'm sure she will remind us here in just a second. So just to keep things going, I want to talk to you a little bit about what concerns you the most coming up in 2020, David, as relates to gun control. What do you see on the horizon that for you personally, makes you most concerned and most engaged with trying to stop what's coming up?
It's really tough to say what concerns me the most, because this year in particular, it's an election year, and at least on the on the federal level, on the presidential level, which is going to be what people talk about the most, it's a lose-lose situation. I mean, Trump is very anti-gun, and all of the Democrat candidates are obviously very anti-gun. And sometimes I go back and forth on who's more dangerous. But as far as gun rights go, so many people rolled over and let Trump ban bump stocks.
Right.
Because, Trump did it, and, we don't really need them. I don't think they would have done it if, Obama was still in office or if Hillary had won. I think you would have had a lot of FUDs and like nominal pro-gun people would have probably been coming out a lot stronger on that issue.
Right.
So
believed he was playing 4D chess.
Right.
That's what I saw a lot, was that,
yeah.
Hey, no, he just had to give a little, guys. He's working on our side.
Yeah, it's like, don't worry, guys. He's banning bump stocks, but it's going to repeal the NFA eventually. And I'm like,
like every that happens. Like, do you see it now?
He'll do that right after he finishes arming the Space Force. Yeah.
I think what I'm most concerned about is it's not any one piece of legislation. It's not any one candidate. It's just the general attitude, especially the attitude of the upcoming generations in regards to guns. Because as I think anyone who's involved in firearms knows, it's something that you're much more likely to get into if your family's into it. Like there's not a ton of people who just go out of their way to get into guns on their
own. If they weren't raised with it. Yeah.
So my big thing is just getting people more comfortable with guns again through through videos, through pop culture. I have another feature film that I'm trying to get off the ground right now. It's called In the Shadow of the Valley, and the main character he's not ex-military, he's not a cop, he's a pastor of a church, and he always has a gun, and that's a huge part of the story. And I just want to make something where it's like, yeah, look, this is just kind of an everyday guy. Make gun ownership cool again. Make it more palatable to the masses. Show. Exactly. So that's what I'm most worried about. I'm most worried about the giant shift that we're seeing, where older generations, even if they're anti-gun, they're not generally as rabidly anti-gun as a lot. I mean, look at, ever since the Newtown shooting, not Newtown, Parkland. Yeah. I couldn't think of the name for a second. Ever since the Parkland shooting, all those kids, I mean, they all got like millions of Instagram followers. People treat them like rock stars.
Yeah. Right. David Hoggs.
But not the ones who were actually speaking out, like Kyle Kashner,
Pariah.
Yeah.
Right.
And I mean, we might all disagree with him on some things. I think he's a fairly traditional conservative, but I mean, on the gun issue, he's right on.
Right.
Yeah. David Hogg's like playing this the political route now. He's like, oh yeah, just fresh out of high school. Now I can ride this political wave.
And Harvard's helping him too. Yeah.
Right?
They're like, okay, perfect.
Crazy.
People at Harvard like,
crazy.
Yeah, it is pretty great. And that what you're saying too, especially about like promoting the culture and things like that and family. This is something we're going to be talking about in an upcoming video that we have coming out. But the idea of promoting firearms culture is just so important that it's really worth taking time to think about who in your life you could introduce to that, whether it's a family member that maybe hasn't shot or doesn't shoot very often. You're like, hey, you don't want to come with me to the range and I'll show you how to operate and the basic safety. Let's have a little fun. You start them off in like a little 22 LR, something like that. Or you have some friends, and again, same thing. Maybe one of them doesn't really shoot, or maybe they've shot but not very often. And you get to say, hey, come on out. Let's go do this. It's a way to get people to actually go out there, have a positive experience, engage with shooting, and with social media more than ever. If you guys take some, or girls, whoever it is, whatever you want to call yourself, whoever it is, they, if they take some pictures or some video, right, it's that idea that the more you have people saying, oh, look what I just did, and they have a picture or video, and it becomes more normalized. And the more normalized it is, the better. And, whatever possible avenue you can do that with, I say, go for it. Of course, if you haven't been trained yourself yet in terms of the basics, like go take a safety class, get yourself comfortable.
Confident and safe
if you haven't,
rules,
right.
With the, keep your finger off the trigger. Don't point at anyone.
Right.
Something I would really like to do eventually. I've wanted to for a while, ever since the Parkland thing. I actually tried to see if I could get in touch with David Hogg and invite him to do it, because I think if I could have gotten him, I would have been able to secure some funding for it. But I would like to get some like very, very anti-gun activist teens to agree to come out and maybe go to there's a couple local shooting academies I could potentially get that I have some contacts with. And I would love to see if we could get them to come out and like do a serious carbine course or a defensive handgun course, because so much of it is based in ignorance. I mean, just the other day, I had someone in my comment section see this rifle and they were like, "Oh my God, do you have a rocket launcher?" If you didn't get a good look at it, it's a bolt action Woodstock rifle with a scope on it.
But that's a missile launch.
I thought the scope was some kind of RPG, and I was laughing at
that one of them assault clips. Yeah.
Then when
Assault.
well, and then when they found out it was a scope, they were saying things like, "Oh, so that's when you're too cowardly to shoot someone where your face can see them." And I'm thinking, or it's so that I can take ethical shots on animals. But sure, whatever.
Right? Yeah.
Maybe I want to take a well-placed shot.
Need to put some distance and actually make sure where shooting's going.
Side note, I look forward to seeing your skills at the range in Vegas.
Woohoo.
Oh, that'll be fun. I'll have to practice up. I've been a little because I've been very busy and there's been nasty weather and I haven't been out to the range too much this winter. But
well, don't worry, we're going to spend a lot of fun time shooting that day. Get y'all warmed up.
Shoot the star out.
Get all the old shooter lube. Get it all ready to go.
Yeah.
Pop a few rounds.
So
it's great because the guys from FPC are going to be there too. So it's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to be there. So anybody who's listening, watching, again, on the Red Flag Rally campaign for the group dinner, for the range, if you want to join in, there is that perk option. It's a great way to support the campaign. And again, David's going to be there. We're going to be there. FPC is going to be there. It's going to be a great time. Lots of liberty lovers, people who really love guns, are passionate about it. They're absolutists. They're like, nuh-uh, you ain't touching anything. It's going to be a lot of fun. So, and a bare minimum, right, you need a little vacation. Can't really go wrong in Vegas.
Guy that comments. You're going to be guy that goes to the range with us? He's putting some funny comments.
So, yeah, I mean, I think that, it's just a really fun way to, I think, get outdoors and also have a good bonding experience with people. That's, been my experience with shooting.
You look at me.
Yeah. I mean, with friends and family, like I love doing it. I love going out and saying, hey, let's go to the range. Let's have a good time, hang out.
Meeting for the first time.
Yeah.
FPC, I'll be meeting them in person for the first time. Not like, they're made up of individuals, you know what I mean?
Right, yeah.
And David. Or Buck the
It will be my first time meeting David in person, but I'm excited to see his beautiful face. He hasn't aged a day. Look at that.
Can you? Are you going to be able to resist?
Yes, I can resist. But exactly. But the thing is it's just really cool to actually see that people are willing to come together and work toward these goals. You know what I mean? Like, it's not just a bunch of these internet trolls who are like basement dweller nobodies, like regular people with families, people with regular jobs, who have people they care about and love, who are, you know, serious entrepreneurs or serious business people, actually like guns. It's not just some taboo weird thing. Like, lots of everyday people enjoy shooting guns. They do it for recreation. They do it for, you know, sport or hunting. They do it for self-defense. But guess what? It's a very normal thing that millions of people do. And I think that, you know, that's something that we really want to promote with our work. Of course, you with Buck the System in your work, and with the Red Flag Reality campaign. You know, we want to say that this is normal. Like, it's okay to like guns. It's not taboo. It's not weird. It is actually really freaking cool. And as long as you're safe and you do, you know, follow, you know, safety protocol and take care of everything you're supposed to do with, you know, the direction of the gun and maintain your stuff, it's all good. Just like a car. Cars can be dangerous, but as long as you're safe, they can be a lot of fun too. So, you know, that's the oh, someone said David is handsome, no hetero.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
Yes,
He's
yeah.
like,
There'll be many handsome, beautiful people there. So again, at a bare minimum, you'll see his beautiful face in person. We know you want to see it. I want to see it. She wants to see it. Yeah. So, but in any case, yeah, you know, it's gonna be a good time.
I just had to say, when I jumped on, I'm like, whoa, we got the Batman of Liberty over here. Okay, I'm sorry.
Batman. I
just thought that.
He's like a Batman like who actually uses guns. I think he actually, you're right. He would make a good Batman. He's got the voice. And the voice. I think the voice too. You're right.
Anyway, dress up as Batman.
Batman. Oh!
Whoa!
It appears that I hit a refresh.
Have a support.
And we've gotten some support.
We're at 86 backers.
I got to update this because
I don't know what it was before.
I turned around for 1 second and all of a sudden.
We went from 13,927 to
yes, we've broken 14,000. So
cool.
Let's celebrate.
So
Thank
close
you.
To 15.
I'll cheers to that with my.
Did we just get a $500 donor?
Wait, did you say 5 million?
500. I wish.
I was like 5 million. I was like, I gotta refresh that right now.
Yeah, maybe they're like, I really do want to see David.
The NRA could do it if they decided they didn't want to compromise.
Well, we obviously love anybody who wants to support us, whether you want the perk or not, or support for the donation or not. We are happy to accept. All right, so let's see what was the next perk, because I don't even know how to interpret this. Let's see. What'd they get? I don't even know.
Still a range?
Because it went from it's got to be 500. So I guess what did they get?
I think that was the range day event.
I guess so. I'm not seeing it, but whoever, maybe someone donated. I'm not sure.
Did you choose a perk?
Whoever if you just supported.
There's one range day claimed. Was that already claimed?
That was already, there was already somebody claimed. So again, if someone just supported, just double check, make sure you didn't put like a donation if you didn't mean to. Again, if someone puts a donation by accident, we always tell them it's okay. We'll make sure you get your perks. So again, if you accidentally click donation and didn't mean to, don't worry, we got you. Just send us a message, we'll check, and you're good to go. You come on out to the range, no worries. So, but awesome. Thank you for whoever just jumped in with that 500 support and put us over. Now we're at 28% of our $50,000 goal, 14,427, 86 backers, which to me, I'm just floored because, there's so many, things going on right now that, people are scared about and they're worried about the future, but to see that people are, really ready and willing to work with us to try to push back against what's coming is very encouraging. So.
Oh, cool. So someone said it was me.
Okay. So he said, so thank you so much. So we have someone who came in here, and I won't say exactly what their name is unless they want us to, but they said, I'm not after any perks. It was me. So I guess they, but again, we will send you a little message in case you do decide to come on out for the range day event. You are absolutely welcome. We will definitely keep you in mind if you want to come out for the range day. So thank you so much. So
thank you.
Whoever just did that, because I see your name there, judging by the suffix on it, I'm guessing I know where you are. And if you are where I think you are, you should definitely look me up and add me on Facebook or anything if you want to, because it looks like we're in the same region.
The region of Liberty. Yes.
Well, they're not in the Liberty part, but
Whoa, that's cool.
Yes.
Interesting.
The intellectual region of liberty.
I can't read that. I'm like, what does that mean? I just thought it's a drug specialist. Anyway.
Drug specialist. That's funny.
So,
Well, I'll put it this way: the last 3 letters are basically an airport code.
I see.
For a city, and if you knew what it was, you'd recognize it instantly.
Gotcha.
Cool.
But I don't want to say
you.
publicly where they are.
Thank you so much. Yes. Either way, we're going to be great stewards of your support. And of course, David here is working diligently on his own channel on Buck the System. He had a great channel covering all different types of current events, covering things with guns and other topics about liberty and, family and things like that. Because I know I've seen your family on there with your wife popping on. So that was cool to see too. And you had actually a new addition not too long ago.
We do, yeah. I think since we even started talking about this project,
we have another one.
You're
like, in fact, there's another one right now. Yeah.
Hopefully not another one for a good year and a half or two. But we just had our 3rd child, our 2nd boy. So his name is Dallas. He was born end of September. So
awesome.
He's been a lot of fun. He's just starting to smile a lot. So
yeah,
on stage.
Yeah, the kid pics are cute, so I've seen those, and I know things have been very hectic for you and busy, working around the house, taking care of the kids. So we really do appreciate that you came out to talk to us with so much in your life going on, and I think it obviously means a lot to people here to hear about you, your past work, your film, your passion for guns and gun rights. So thank you, because without your talents here, the film wouldn't be at that level of professional quality that it could be, and especially
vision, particularly because you've also, not only do you have the technical skill to record, do the lighting, but you also have the vision and the passion for liberty behind it. We could have hired somebody like any kind of media production company, they exist, but they wouldn't have had the same vision and passion, and that's so important. We want to finesse it together with you. So I'm really excited and looking forward to when we get to direct it together.
Well, and I will also say, so that listeners know, I am, and we've talked about this a lot. Thank you so much, Glenn. I love Glenn. Glenn's awesome. Glenn has been a supporter of my work for a long time, and I always really appreciate it. But what I wanted to say was that just so everyone knows, we've talked about ways that we're going to make the money that you're giving really go the distance and really stretch it. Because I mean, you might look at the goal of like $35,000, $50,000, and you think, wow, that's a lot. That seems like a lot. That is a drop in the bucket for what we're going to be doing. We're going to be I'm going to be wearing a lot of technical hats. When we're going to make something that looks like it cost hundreds of thousands of dollars, which if you've seen that Sandy Hook propaganda piece we referenced earlier, where the kids are running through the hallways, that wasn't cheap. I would be surprised if that wasn't at least in like the mid to high 6-figure range budget wise,
absolutely. Because of the facility, the number of actors, and
yeah. I mean, it's expensive doing film productions. And I have a good history of making films that look professional for very limited budgets. I made a feature film for my church a couple years ago for around $2,500. I'm not looking to do that again because that was very, very difficult. But it was nice to test my skills and make something kind of a piece to show people what I can accomplish with virtually no budget. I was basically we were all just working for free. And some gas money from the church as we drove around. But, it's gone to film festivals and people have thought it cost $100,000.
That's incredible. So, I'm so excited. This is like some of the coolest things I've ever done. Yes. Sorry. It's going
to look like $1 million Hollywood video.
Well, and that's the goal. And I know that you actually, toward that end, even recently, were working to up your studio and your editing capabilities. Mm-hmm. Can you talk about any of that, like just things that you were working on to like take your own production suite to the next level?
Yeah. So, the main reason I was working on my studio is because I have 3 children. So it was very difficult to just work in a corner of the house.
Yeah.
So I have converted my garage into a studio with like some studio space for things like product photography, which I sometimes do to make money. Built a whole new computer, built an awesome setup. And then
Nice.
adjacent to my actual office space is this room that I'm in. This is like a 5x5 walk-in gun safe / recording booth. So you can't see it here, but I have like a whole setup on, I have 2 walls of guns, a wall of ammo, and then a wall of equipment. So I have,
Cool.
I have a folding desk here. I have an arm with my microphone on it. I have a monitor mounted on the wall, an audio interface, so that I can do everything. And it's hooked up to my computer with pass-through cables that go through the wall that are nice and flush. I can plug into one side of the wall, then another cable comes out the other side and plugs into my computer. So I can do work on my computer and do recordings in here, do voiceovers, for paid work, do my podcast, do all that stuff, working in a fairly sound controlled environment.
I was gonna say the sound is great. I hear like
thank you. I'm glad too, because when I have this metal pegboard that my guns, or at least the horizontal guns, which you can't really see, but I have
It's
my
nice.
magazine racks are a little empty. I need to refill those. But
Careful, you might give people from California a heart attack.
Oh
my god!
They had it the moment they saw, as he mentioned in his
when I first had just the metal pegboards up here, you'd get really bad echo and ringing, and I was like, man, I hope the guns baffle it the way I'm kind of counting on them to, and they do. I think it's pretty good sound in here. So, and obviously, I wanted a sweet background. I figured why not turn this into a workspace and not just because. When I started building it, it was just supposed to be a gun room. And I was like, hey, I should turn this into a voiceover booth too. Then I can write it off.
Smart.
Yeah. So, now I need to figure out if I can write off my decorations.
You gotta make it work some way, I'm sure. You're like, this is my religion as well.
Great.
You got someone the
way.
I'm the pastor of the Church of the Long Gun.
I'm a Mandalorian. This is my religion. Weapons are a part of my religion.
Someone just commented from what you just described that you made them wet. They're like,
they got a little wet looking at what you had up there.
Just like, I just saw it wet.
But yeah, what I just really appreciate about you, Dave, and your passion, your work is just that you've been consistent and worked so hard over the past many years, past several years, toward your goals and your dreams. And obviously, I've been watching you do that stuff from afar, kind of a creepy way, not too much, but obviously, I've watched
a lot of fanboys.
Lots of fanboys. Watched your work. I really appreciated your dedication, your love of liberty, and your principled stances. And I think that what you bring to the table here, I think people are going to be really impressed by because it's not just the talent that you're bringing, but it's also the passion, the vision, as Fahir mentioned, and just really understand that those of us who are working on this, we are definitely serious producers here. I have a lot of experience with production myself, from comics to music videos to movies and shorts and stuff like that. David does as well. So we definitely have the expertise. Right? Yeah, she has a little bit different, more talent, but we have the expertise to know how to get things done. We know how to be agile in our production and make sure that we maximize everything we do. So, when you support us, you're supporting people who take what you're giving to us very seriously. And we want to be good stewards of that and be responsible with it and make sure that everything that we, say we would like to do, that we could reasonably do. So we always like to, under promise, but over deliver. So we're definitely gonna be working toward that. And want you to know that, we take our integrity very seriously, and won't see any weird ghosting or anything like that, unless they realize we're such a threat and they decide to try to Epstein us. Which for the record, all of us here
want to be alive. David loves his kids.
Right, David loves his kids. I love my not made kids yet, but I love my life. I'm happy. Everything's great. No problems at all. Right? We are all very happy, successful people. No reason to be sad. If anything happens,
suicide. I did not suicide.
Yes, you better be watching that. You better not let that one slide. So we all here. We're very responsible, and we're very mentally well, at least according to ourselves, and maybe not the gun rappers, but to ourselves.
Yeah, so, you know, thank you to everyone who's supported so far tonight. And, you know, you'll keep seeing things from us as we have 44 days left out of 60 total. So we've already been raised, 14?
So right now we're sitting at 14,427. So absolutely fantastic. I mean, seriously, thank you so much, everybody.
So thank you so much for being here. We want to make an amazing video that, you know, reaches across all lines, you could say. And you know, this is it. America really is like one of the last major stands for a culture of guns. And
I would say it is the last. I mean, the best places around the country for gun rights outside of America are worse than the worst places in America. You know, California, New York, Massachusetts, Hawaii.
Yeah.
Those places are all better than all the other places around the world that you would look at as being relatively pro-gun in comparison to the rest of the world. So, yeah, we're definitely
the last
stronghold.
Yeah. I guess I was just saying, like, okay, maybe there's some like remote, you know, villages in like Europe or whatever that no one.
Well, there's some places in like Pakistan and stuff like that where like you can go and like
but in
get
terms
guns
of
in the black market and stuff like that. But yeah, there's a
few war zones you could live in, but none of us.
A few war zones, you know, if you want to expat, you know. But you know, it's
so it really is, and that's quite an incredible part of history to be alive in. I mean, you know, we have hundreds of thousands of human consciousnesses before us that some just died, some were murdered, never heard of again. We don't even know who they are, nameless, faceless people. So we have this incredible chance where technology is so advanced, like, you know, David was talking about earlier, like, you know, envious of the technology. A lot of the young kids now, the new kids, the babies coming up will have access to, so long as the government doesn't, you know, just cut off everyone's legs in the market some more. But, you know, to that avenue, that technology for getting on the internet is still relatively open. Making videos, just using your phone, making entertainment things. Seriously, anyone can do it. I think just to help with the culture, you know, you can make videos of yourself going to the range. Like, hey, I took my brother to the range, and it's just whatever on your phone, and it's just that's it, and your mom recorded. Cool. But you show yourself being compassionate to your brother and alleviating his fears, and it all shows and dispels this propaganda. And now we have more and more evidence on the internet that people who love guns aren't incels. There aren't people who don't have big penises. Well, I don't have a big penis, but so maybe for me. But in general, you know, it's not about that. It's really about people who just love life, liberty, and freedom. And that's what everyone wants in the world. Every single human being wants freedom, at least for themselves. It's just whether or not they want it for others. And the people who don't want it for others are the ones we're fighting against, because we're the direct opposite. We're the libertarians, the voluntarists, the anarchists. We're the ones saying, no, freedom is for everybody, for all peaceful, loving human beings. And it's wrong to infringe on anyone else just because, you know, whatever, you don't like, you know, whatever aspect of the world, or, you know, what kind of food they eat, or whatever. They don't recycle. So, but yeah.
Mandatory recycling or you'll lose your goods. Yeah, it's crazy. So thank you so much. We can, you know, wrap it on up here. So thank you so much, David, for coming on again. For those of you who just came in the last second, we were just having a conversation here with David. Definitely worth watching this video if you haven't started with us from the beginning, talking about his role with the Red Flag Rally Film Project. He's our cinematographer. He's an amazing guy, super talented when it comes to film, when it comes to guns, when it comes to cracking witty jokes. And he has a great YouTube channel with Buck the System.
Looks like Batman.
Yeah, we'll link to, and you could even see his wonderful, beautiful face in person at the Range Day event. So if you want to support the film project, he's going to be there with us, with FBC, with all the other people. Yeah, at the Ranger dinner. And so, you know, just really appreciate your generous time and being willing to work with us on this project. So it means the world to us. And I think everybody who supported is going to see that it was well worth their time to come and work with us.
Awesome. Thanks so much for having me on, guys.
Yeah, thank you, David. You're awesome. Have fun with your kids and your wife and your family and the snow.
Will do.
Yeah.
Take care, David. We'll talk soon.
We will.
All right. Take care, everybody.
Cheers.
See you later.
Cheers, everyone. Bye. Have a great night. Thanks for hanging.